So thank you very much for the survey today. Here's a recording of what was discussed, and I spent some of the time just talking directly to the camera, so you won't have heard it all, but I develop my theories of what's causing the root cause of the dampness as I go along, so there can be some change towards the end, but have a listen. So if this property is on a hill, you're not going to have rising damp here. You're not going to have rising damp in London anyway, but let alone on a hill. So we've got a fireplace here. That means that this is a chimney breast and they are vulnerable to what are called hygroscopic salts. I'm not seeing any. That could potentially be one. They're damp all year round. And I'm going to have to move this picture to have a look in behind here, and then obviously at the base of the wall. So that's been you got mould, and where you've got mould, you've got excess vapour. There's a lot of woodworm there. It's not something you need to particularly be concerned about, but a few squirts of permethrin will resolve that mainly. That's a sign of its dampness, which can come from any source. Where you got a rusted electrical socket, that's normally a sign of condensation, but it can obviously come from any source of water. This is a solid floor, so there's no structural timber. So although it's not great to have the woodworm, it's not going to cause a long-term problem. But I understand that you had it on the guarantee. But the problem with using a company to do it is that they don't tend to come back to reapply it, and you need to reapply it every year for 3 years because the life cycle of larvae is 3 years. This is common furniture beetle. I would say it's probably ongoing. If I can, I'll give it a spray. There may be some. The problem with the standard damp proofing treatment is it doesn't get rid of hygroscopic salts because they do apply a water-based mixture, even though it's low levels of water, it can still come through, so it doesn't really help. It does reduce the amount, but a much easier way, the modern way of doing it, is with an oil-based primer such as Zinza cover stain. I'll have a look to see what it's done. Yeah, see it. Yeah, so that could be hygroscopic salts. Those are looking like hygroscopic salts. But hygroscopic salts do not cause woodworm, and they don't cause mould, which I'm seeing here. And it looks to me as though you've got both issues, hygroscopic salts and excess vapour, so the combination. And no rising damp, because you're in London, you don't get rising damp in London. It's been treated for rising damp, but that is counterproductive. So obviously moving the water butt is a good idea. Water butts can cause penetrating damp, and the echo drain is a good idea. You should really put the plinth back because it's to stop this splash from rainwater going onto the brickwork. So these are damp proofers holes. Now I'm not necessarily hugely against the holes. It's the fact that there's no rising damp and it's treatment against rising damp. It's not like you wouldn't have had a damp-proof course anyway. And yeah, that looks like the damp-proof course. So the drain is good. You've got water in it. It's not. I mean, it could be cracked underneath, but I doubt it. But just to say, if you've got water in the drain, it's good because it's there to stop the smells coming back from the drain, and it's a sign that it is working. So here's your chimney breast that I was asking about. That's a fillet of cement, rather a large one, but that's good. So I will continue what you've got here. But yes, I think there is some condensation there. And you've probably got some penetrating damp. I'll ask how long the plinth has been like this. And these water butts can cause problems. It's difficult to tell, but the fact that you've got dribble marks down there, but I mean, it could be innocently going away from the wall, so not necessarily an issue. Feels like it's been damp-proof, the ridge, damp-proof this ridge around here. But this is a damp meter. So, you've got So I've just come out here to try and explain what hygroscopic salts are. You get them from the burning of coal specifically, and they cause dampness through deliquescence, which is a form of condensation at lower levels of relative humidity. You can see them on this chimney breast, as you can a bit your neighbour. So what happens is the damp brick causes the soot that was around in Victorian times to stick to the damp brick. It's not black in itself, but if you see modern hygroscopic salts, or at least recent hygroscopic salts, they're normally transparent because we don't have the soot around. So on this section of the wall, you don't see the hygroscopic salts on the outside, but that doesn't mean that they're not on the inside. They're normally they're often mistaken for groundwater, because groundwater also has hygroscopic salts. The most common source of hygroscopic salts is through coal, burning of coal, and then the second most common is something that you wouldn't have here, but it's from animal, specifically horse urine. And you get it around old barns, farmyards, that type of thing, and they are constantly damp. They're not a source of moisture. They wouldn't cause woodworm, they wouldn't cause rot, and they are benign, and all you need to do is cover them in an oil-based primer. You don't need to damp-proof the property. Damp-proofing the property increases the dampness from condensation and the mould, and by damp-proofing it, you've actually increased the risk of damage to the property, because damp-proofing stops a wall from breathing. It takes away the breathability that we talked about. It also marginally decreases the temperature, because you're losing all those little pores within the plaster, and the pores, or the air in any insulation or any plaster, is what's giving it the insulating properties. So by removing them, you decrease the temperature, increasing the surface relative humidity, and therefore the risk of mold and condensation. Now see, you don't have an extractor fan in the kitchen, and you don't, and you're drying clothes in the nearby utility area. So those are areas of risks. So vapour or condensation is caused by excess vapour. That's defined as where internal dew point is above the outside temperature. This time of year you won't see much example of that, but in winter you will do. So I can only tell you what I'm seeing at the moment, but I do think that condensation, excess vapor from both the damp proofing treatment and from the excess vapor doesn't come from the damp proofing treatment, to be clear, but the excess vapor is being made worse by the damp proofing treatment, lack of air circulation in the cupboard, and probably reduced heating. I mean, I don't see, so the radiators on that side, so they're a long way from here, you're going to get a lot of heat loss. I would say the plinth, removing the plinth and having the butt there would exacerbate the problem, but they're not the root cause. The root cause was the excess vapor made worse by the damp proofing treatment, etc. So there's heat loss at the base, which is a sign that the wall is drying out. And obviously you don't have plaster all the way down, so you're going to get a zone of heat loss anyway. I mean, you won't want to replace the timber here. I would have insulation instead. If you use permethrin, then the timber will be fine. And I'll get it yourself. It's much better than using a damp proofing company to do it. And just spray it and keep an eye on it. Spray it every year for 3 years. And reduce the vapor. I would use a dehumidifier in this corner of the room, 24/7, with a fan, and use a damp meter to measure the dampness, as well as. So it's showing 100% there. So you can say that the render, the damp proofer's slurry or tanking material has hidden some of the damp, hidden some of the hygroscopic salts, but a primer is obviously a lot cheaper. It's the modern method of doing it. So there's dampness on the front wall as well. I'll have a look on the outside. So on the outside you've got paint, which looks in good order, but you may get some cracking, and the problem with this type of paint is that water can run down the wall and just find a small gap or crack like that, and it gets pulled in through capillary action. What is likely to happen is it causes the external skin of paint, you see that's not fully painted there, external skin of paint can become damp and cold, and it increases the risk of condensation. Yeah, it's damp in here. I don't think this is the source at all now. So this side you've got, actually they don't look too bad. But you have got a risk of water getting in past here and then getting trapped behind the impermeable paint. And there are a few nicks in it, so you just have to keep an eye on it. I'm testing to see whether you've got a leak. Even if you did have a leak, I don't think it would cause the dampness that you're seeing. But it might be an explanation for why it was damp proofed. So far I don't see a leak. So I've turned off the water on the stopcock. This glass is full, and if you have a leak you'd have a suck back. There can be false negatives and false positives, but I think it's such an unlikely scenario in this case anyway. I see water is coming out a bit. Now it can take a while to reach equilibrium, but it also if you've got a drip and a tap upstairs, it can cause water continue to spill out. So the continuous drip there suggests that water is entering the system somewhere. Sorry, air is entering the system somewhere, but it wouldn't account for the dampness that we're seeing. So I'm going to stop this and conclude that it's not providing accurate information, albeit that if you allow the water to go all the way down, it would give accurate information, but it's just not worth it because the likelihood of this being caused by a leak is close to zero. But you can do that if you suspect a leak. So you want to get the software Sensor Blue and you want to press the scanning thing, and you'll see the orange, or it'll say pairing and then it will have orange. All mine are scanned now, so it won't show it on this. But once it's scanned, what you want to do is it will show the number. You want to give it a name. So the way to find out which is press this and then find it, find it, and then this one's the kitchen and it will glow. So you see that. I put a D for that wall and I've kept the kitchen. So I've already calibrated these. The kitchen is calibrated by minusing 0.2 in the temperature and adding 3.09 for the humidity. And likewise, the damp wall is adding 0.83 to the temperature and minusing 1.14. Now, there will be some variation. I'm calibrating them by using a pre-calibrated unit next to the data loggers, but there will be some variation. But what we're looking for is actually larger numbers. We're not looking for very small sensitive numbers. What you want to do then is press, I've already done the kitchen, press the damp wall, or press the green numbers, press the calculator sign, the export sign, and then leave the dates as they are, export CSV. If that doesn't work, use open CSV. It just takes one step longer. This immediately goes into the whatever email you have and send it to Simon at Damp Service, and just send it, and then back. So if you want to, you can, okay, here we go. Instance, I send that to you, and I won't be showing, just my voice and so on will be what you receive, and then in the end I'll voice it up.
Okay, yeah.
So I've pre-calibrated it. Obviously I can't show it on that.
Ginger, come in. Ginger, come in.
To explain, you've got three things happening at the same time, and actually, in my opinion, it's been made worse by the damp proofing treatment. But we'll set that aside. The point that they right. So I'll jump forward. I can't actually see why they thought that there was rising damp, but you won't have rising damp for lots of different reasons. But firstly, you're in London where the groundwater's pumped out. Secondly, you're on a hill where, you know, groundwater is the water under the water table. The water table is just not going to go up a hill. It just doesn't physically happen. Anyway, you know, the risk of groundwater. So you also have a damp-proof course there historically.
Yeah.
But what you do have a risk of is hygroscopic salts, and you remember we chatted on the way over, or as I was coming over. This is a chimney breast here,
yeah.
And it's a classic place that you'll get hygroscopic salts. They come from the historic burning of coal.
Mm-hmm.
You can see them everywhere. All the streets around London, you'll see them on, and not least you can see them on the outside of Downing Street, and they look, and you can see it on the back of your other chimney breast. They collect the soot because the brick is damp from hygroscopic salts. The soot will stick to it. So hygroscopic salts are like table salt is a hygroscopic salt. they cause what's called deliquescence, which is a form of condensation at normal levels of relative humidity. So you know how sea salt or any salt clumps up around 75% relative humidity? That's hygroscopic. So when you go on holiday, you'll see in Italy they put rice into the salt pots to stop that clumping up. Albania probably as well. But that's what hygroscopic means, that it draws in the moisture from the air and it will leave little stains. Now, I don't see much in the way of it, but
it's only just been painted literally a week ago, so they've literally rubbed it all down and repainted it. And, and I asked them not to, but I'm sure I saw a tin of Zimmer in the, which is a stained block water block. And
okay, so the modern way, so the old-fashioned way of dealing with it was to use a low moisture level plaster or tanking material. The modern way of doing it is with an oil-based primer, which is probably what they used. And damp proofers often resort to that, but it doesn't come from rising damp. Rising damp is from groundwater. Groundwater also contains hygroscopic salts because they get leached through the soil, but it's not the primary cause. And in London, you don't get groundwater. It's basically coal is the main one, but also you can get it from animal urine around where horses used to congregate. You get it like old stables, barns and so on. Anyway, that's probably the excuse for damp proofing it, the rising.
Well, that was when we moved into the property. That was like 20 years ago.
I saw the survey. I haven't read through it, but I saw that. Was that the time of the one that you sent? You sent one over. I had a look at.
Oh, was it? Briefly. Must be more organised. I thought.
So that is one thing, but the second thing is the dampness there. And while I think what's happening on the outside is a contributory factor, I don't think it's the root cause. I think that's causing additional heat loss, but I think you have got condensation here. And there are two big candidates for it, and the kitchen doesn't have an extractor fan in it. It's not externally ducted. And anyway, your doors are saying it isn't working, so presumably it wouldn't be used.
The kitchen, the cooker, no, it doesn't work.
And then you've got the utility room nearby, and I see you've got a clothes hanger, and you've got vents. Oh, sorry, you've got a condenser dryer. The other thing is you've got radiators, which are a long way away, and you've got the presumably the cupboards were sort of blocking.
The cupboards had solid doors on them, so at the moment we're just waiting to get vented doors to let air flow through. But these were just they were just literally these doors, but just solid. So I've just had them rolled out. Yeah.
But so what will happen is when you open it up, it'll get the humidity from the room, and when you close it off, it's not getting the heat. So it's a perfect place for condensation to take place in. And around your sockets, it looks like condensation there.
We had to have that socket dismantled because it blew all the, it was literally soaked at the back.
But that will be condensation, be the most likely cause. Now, if you had penetrating damp, which is another risk, because you've got the water butt near, and I know the plinth has been removed now. But what was the state like before?
What was the plinth like? No, it was fine. It's just because what I said to them, because we didn't realise just how bad the wood was. We knew it was wet on that wall, but it wasn't wet at the time they came. So the plinth was the same condition as this.
Yeah. So which is not a bad condition, and this all looks good. And you want to have a sort of what's called a fillet of cement at the base of the wall, which you've got there, and I assume that was just temporarily removed.
We hacked it just to see if it was.
And it was some time ago, but a brick wall is a really good at stopping rainwater come through, because what happens is the rainwater goes onto the brick, it gets absorbed into the brick in all directions and then evaporates out. Whereas the front is painted and there is a little bit of low-level dampness to the front.
To the front on the left-hand side.
Both sides actually, okay. I think. And the paint is a little bit flaking in places. It's not bad condition, and you wouldn't notice. But if you were coming to sell the property, it might be flagged up. So I think that could contribute. I certainly would do if it's left like that for any length of time. But the water butt, because you can see that the water's overflowed.
Yeah.
Here.
So we only hacked this off like literally last week. So before that it was like this, and I hacked it off just so that we could see if there was anything going on down here.
But the other thing that the water butt will do is rain will splash onto this, and it won't get the airflow because of the water butt. But
that render was mossy and green, so it's definitely drier now than it was when the water butt was there.
Okay, so if it's mossy and green, it means that it's getting water. And I'd say it's the water butt that's doing that. But let's focus on the inside. Okay. So the woodworm. A few things to note on the woodworm. One is
woodworm?
Yeah, it's a common furniture beetle. You've got that.
Okay, I just thought that was just completely where it just had rotted where it was damp, because it was damp.
I would say you've also got this is common furniture beetle there. This looks like cellar rot, and you typically get wood weevil with cellar rot. But anyway, I'll jump back to that in a sec. Yeah. The first thing to say is it's not structural, so it's just for aesthetics. So no part of the house is going to collapse because of this. Okay. Although you wouldn't want it to go on for much longer. Secondly, you had it treated for woodworm, as I understood it from our conversation.
Yeah, when we very first moved in.
The problem with the treatment is that it's only done once, and it needs to be done every year for 3 years to be effective, because the life cycle of the larvae, because the larvae is actually within the timber, and it's not affected by the permethrin. It's only affected when it comes in and goes out. But so you want to do it for 3 years. If it were me, so it's something easy to do. Anyone can do it. It's just a spray. Yeah. It costs like £10. I often carry some, but I thought I had some, but I don't have any in the car. But you can get it from Amazon for about 10. Just look at it. It needs to be 0.2%. Is that a bit of spider's web?
I'm just going to walk the dogs.
So yeah, 0.2%.
0.2%. They mention them. Just to say that permethrin is the standard insecticide for anything from childhood nits to mosquitoes to it affects the insects but not humans. So what I would do is remove as much timber as you can without collapsing this unit, which looks to be in good order. I'd take as much as you can away, but leave the skirting board. I'll use the vacuum cleaner to remove all this is called frass. This, and actually where you've got frass, it is normally a sign that it's active, because it's the excretion from the woodworm hole. And just sprays all over, and then take some photos. You could paint it, because the good thing about paint is that you'll see if there's an active infestation, because they'll drill through it. Yeah. But it's a sign of dampness. But once it's there, it will continue irrespective of the dampness. So you can dry the place out, but you can. But so the good news is that it's likely to be just contained in this area, and you don't want to damage the parquet flooring, but that obviously is damaged beyond repair. And a few years treatment, and it literally it'll take you 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's fine.
But you just have to remind yourself. Active period is anywhere between March and July. Okay. So it's worth doing it now. And yeah, I'd just remove as much as possible.
And do you think I should remove it then, or?
So I didn't catch a lot of that, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So I don't think you've got a leak. the risk of penetrating damp is minimal. You're doing all the right things on the outside, but you've got a clear risk of condensation. And I know you're doing all the right things. However, modern lifestyles weren't, well, these properties weren't made for modern lifestyle. And I think if it were me, what I would do is I would remove as much timber as possible, vacuum away all the frass so you can see clearly where the holes are. I would lift as much of the timber as you can do, because it will be damaged underneath. But don't worry, timber itself is inert, it's not live. The rot is a fungus, it's live, but when you remove the source of the water, which in this case is condensation, it will stop causing damage to the timber. But it does take some time. But I would speed up the process with a fan and a dehumidifier, and if you can do it before you go away, so much the better. But obviously, if you can't, if are the dogs in here at night or
no, in the upstairs. I've got a dehumidifier that I can put on a timer, so I use that.
So actually, what you want to do is when you're away, is have it sitting in this kitchen sink.
So we have it here currently. Because when I do my drying, I have this door open and the dehumidifier on, and the dehumidifier as close to the close as I
Okay,
can.
but when you're going away, what you want to do is, have you kept the drain that came with the dehumidifier, the pipe?
Yes. Yes. I don't know where
You want to have it plugged into the drain, draining and set to 70% relative humidity.
Okay.
And then you should be fine.
I have got people staying while I'm away, so.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's even better, because what you do is you leave the dehumidifier by that door and just ask them to take it out once a day.
Yeah. Okay.
Take out the water.
Okay.
I would set it to 70%. I mean, in some respect, there's no point when the windows are being opened, but it's at night. That's when, even in summertime at night, it can get quite cold.
Okay.
So that will speed up the process, plus the fan.
Okay. Got a fan as well. That's good.
So, but there's no major concern. But you'll get all of this from when I send it over.
Perfect. Good.
Myself the data. I'll use that data. You'll see what I've done. I'll send it when I send this video, and you can then copy it and put it onto a website called damp.ai/detect, and there you can upload the data and you can see ongoing how it is. Okay. But it's better to change the calibration as I would have shown you.
Okay, on the video, yeah, perfect, yeah.
Exactly. So you're just saying about, Rentokil did the injections.
So originally, so that was when we moved into the property. That was in 2004, 2006, and we had it assessed by Rentokil, and they said it was rising damp, and they hacked off all the plaster, injected it from the outside, and we've since that point had a yearly policy, like an insurance policy that covers rising damp and wood-boring insects. And that part of the company had come round to assess it because we knew we had a problem. They kept saying that's condensation. Then the actual rising damp part of the company came round and said it's definitely rising damp. You need to hack off all the plaster, have it re-injected. At which point we looked like, well, we're being told two completely different things. One of you are telling us to have rising damp treatment done because you want us to pay for it. The other part of the company is saying it's condensation because they don't want to pay for us to have the rising damp. So we just lost all faith in that they were giving us any information that was correct. So we just cancelled all the work that was planned and got you to come out and give us a independent opinion, because hopefully now we won't have to have all that work done.
Okay, do is I'll use an AI voice for you and then put that in.
Yes.
It's quite useful for other people to learn from it.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great.
Brilliant, thank you so much.
I've got all the details and I'll send it to
What's
that
wrong
too.
with my voice?
Well, I'm happy, but I just want, just for privacy. It's only
I'm joking.
I recommend getting one of these. They're radio frequency, showing you different values to what it was before. Oh yeah, there you go. So the dampness in different zones, and it's worth getting it so you can find out whether you're drying out.
Okay.
But don't worry too much about it. It's most of the surveyors nowadays use this type of meter, which is the surface, but it's really only it's not showing dampness deep within it, and the wall is actually fairly dry. And the other thing is that it leaves little marks, which is annoying.
So do you hear there is wood as well?
Well, what I'd say is there is a much greater chance of getting condensation there, because it's the corner you get much more heat loss. Over here is not the corner, and also you're close to the radiator.
Okay.
So the risk is much less there, and it's going to be the same.
But do you think for the woodworm, I should?
No, I don't think you would. You're unlike. I mean, as much as anything else, there's a break. Larvae will eat through timber, and then it will come out as an adult beetle.
Yeah.
Or it's got wings, and it's really unlikely to be there. And I think you'll do more damage and with very little benefit. So no, I wouldn't.